The Arab Image Foundation is a non-profit organization that was created by me and by others, artists, in 1997 to preserve photographic practices that are threatened or at risk of disappearing. And very slowly the foundation became like an engine for collecting photographs from the Arab world and its diaspora. What is very particular about this collection is that it is generated through artistic work and scholarly work. So we think of the act of collecting as an art form. The archive of Hashim al-Madani is really like a unique collection for the foundation because we signed a contract with him that allows us, that makes the collection owned by the foundation, even if not all of it is physically in the foundation. Mm-hmm. We own even what is still in his studio. Okay. So, and also in magnitude, it represents almost 40% or more. Sorry, I think it represents more than half of the Arab Image Foundation's collection today. I met Hashim al-Madani, who is a local photographer from Saida, the same city where I come from, in South Lebanon. I met him in 1999 when I was working on a project called The Vehicle, and I was looking for pictures of cars or other means of transport, and looking into how they function in people's lives. So I went to see him because I had seen few images of mechanics fixing cars. A friend of mine took me to him and did the introduction, and this is how I got to use some of his pictures in that project in 1999. And I never thought that my commitment to him would go beyond that, or my commitment to his collection would go beyond that. Slightly, I mean, slowly, I was gaining his confidence, and then I convinced him to enlarge a little bit the selection and have the Arab Image Foundation have a collection of his work, which was happening slowly in the year 2000 and 2001, and then in one point in, I think, 2001, I realized that this is a collection that should be treated as a whole and not as fragments. And this is when also I was becoming, I was seeing the limits of taking excerpts of a collection and working on them in isolation, isolated from the body of work. So all of a sudden I realized that this is more like an intervention. It's more like an excavation in a photographic and social territory. Mm-hmm. And I realized that what interests me is not only the images themselves, but the set of other type of information or data that comes with it. Of course, I'm not talking about scientific data. I'm talking about all sorts of stories that normally are attached to images, but also stories attached to the development of the photographic industry and how we consume images at home using that interface that is the studio. So the studio is only like a semi-public space where a photographer serves a community. Studio Shahrazad was created in 1953 by this photographer Hashim al-Madani, who had been working since 1948, 49, between 48 and 49. He has been working in the city out of his parents' house. In 1953, he had collected some money and decided to open a studio, and decided to give him the name of Studio Shahrazad because that was the name of the building where he got his studio. The studio is not on the ground level. It is on the almost a first level. It's in between a first and a ground level. So you enter the building as if you are going to take the elevator or the stairs up. In other terms, you disappear in the building, because in this small city, a very conservative city, it was not nice to see particularly women going into a photographer's studio. So he was looking for a discreet access, and this is how the studio is in the first floor. The work that I built on the Madani collection is in chapters. The first one was called Studio Practices, which was shown the first time in 2004, and is about the studio space, is about how people conceive and how people use a studio space, almost like using a theater. So for people in this town, and I think this also applies to so many other places in the world, particularly in the 50s, the studio space is a space to come, for them to come and try out different identities and use disguise. So use the imagination of the photographer as well. And I wanted to dedicate one chapter for this type of work, or for this function of a picture. One day I asked Madani if ever his practice put him in trouble. Mm-hmm. And he told me this story about one, like a woman who came to be photographed in his studio. She was a regular customer, so she, for a few years, she has been coming to his studio. And all of a sudden, her husband came to see him, accusing him of taking pictures of his wife without his consent. So Madani told him that she is a customer, and then she decides to be photographed, and she's like grown up. Mm-hmm. And then they argued because the husband wanted to take the negative, and Madani did not want to give it back to him because it's a 35mm roll that has other pictures as well. So they decided to destroy the negative by scratching it with a pin. And then one day I was, until that point I had not seen that picture, but one day when I was looking into the archive, I found that negative with the scratches, and showed it to him, so he confirmed that this is the picture. What's interesting in this, particularly these two images, is that they have become like a phenomenon about the difficulty of the constraints of using photography in that particular social context, but also they've become like emblematic of the entire project, because for example, how can you date an image like this? It was taken in 1957 here. Well, a few years later I realized that it was taken in 59, not in 1957, but that's besides the point. But the picture becomes an artwork when I attach this story to it. So what's interesting for the general public is not that this is Mrs. Bakari, for example. It's not that this is a picture of her that happened to be scratched. The work is in the fact that this is a picture that carries all the marks of the constraints around it as presented as an outcome of this excavation. Mm-hmm. So it is a document that is dated, in this case, 2006, mm-hmm. although the picture was taken in 1957. And this applies to all the pictures that are part of the Madani project. These, for example, the pictures of men holding each other's, or women holding each other's, acting husband and wife, mm-hmm. or women kissing between themselves, or men kissing. I was really very like, not shocked, but I was really surprised when I saw, because I had not seen like this, anything like that before. But I totally understand it in the context of a conservative city where men and women cannot kiss in front of the camera. So all of a sudden, it gave me a new context in which all our notions today of what is permissible, like what is possible and what is not in front of a camera in a conservative society are completely turned upside down. And I think I can learn, I think people can learn a lot from these pictures, how to unmake their biases.